I've lumped two of the games I played for this pseudo-series into one video because I think they contrast with each other in really fascinating ways. I've found that a running theme with some of the older games that I've selected is that they demonstrated in some way that video gaming has evolved over the years. They represent genres or developers that have grown immeasurably. And it was thus no accident that I decided to play Shenmue and Yakuza 0 one right after the other. I know I've said this of many other games in this pseudo-series, but Shenmue was an especially over-ambitious game in its day. I was expecting it to be this big open-world action game, which I guess it technically is, but it deviated from those expectations, becoming this sprawling detective mystery game with a moving calendar right out of the Persona games, and NPC routines and schedules right out of Majora's Mask. The end result was supposed to be this giant world where every character has their own agenda, where you can spend hours following NPCs around and learning their lives. You have to go out and gather clues organically. Or, like me, you can ignore the story and adopt a cat, and the cat has a little side story of its own. I can't find anything to complain about that. That's objectively good game design. There were small moments where the designer's intent shone through and sort of made me think, wow, modern games can still learn from this. Like, there are some NPCs or shops that you can only go to at certain times of day, but there's no Skyrim-like way to quickly pass the time, so that encourages you to go do the side content while you wait. On paper, that's a really clever way to force the player to engage in extra content and pace the game out naturally. In practice, though, it's a different feeling entirely. Aside from stalking NPCs and learning everything you possibly can about them for no other reason than you're a creep, there aren't too many other side activities. You can train at the game's combat system, but there's only a few scenarios where you actually have to put it to good use. There's a few things you can do with the arcade. I got really good at Hang-On. But aside from that, caring for the cat or playing with Gachapon, it just doesn't feel like there's all that much to do. For every cool side activity or surprise that came as a result, there was another instance of the game just not being as reactive as I would have liked. Like, there's a karaoke bar, and when Ryo walks in, he's like, nah, I ain't doing that. Why not? Give me my karaoke game. If your English dub speaking voice is this bad, I've gotta hear you sing.
I don't have time to play your little games.
Which is a shame. Shenmue's map is compact and memorable. By the time Ryo looked back at this small town, duffel bag in hand, ready to leave for the last time, I felt a sense of melancholy. This place felt like home, and Ryo was so engulfed in his quest for vengeance that he's willing to throw it all away. It felt genuinely tragic. For all its faults, the clunky combat, the nausea-inducing camera, the exhausting reliance on forklifts in the last third, and the mediocre jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none approach to its design, this world nonetheless felt alive. It felt constrained by the Dreamcast limits, by its development cycle, by ambitious goals going unmet, and by the pressure of having to save a console doomed to fail. But there was a living, breathing world in this game. Flawed though it may have been, as aged as its gameplay is today, it's still remarkably organic in ways that many games today still aren't. Which brings us to Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0 might seem easy to compare to Shenmue, but playing one after the other, they feel like they belong to two completely different genres. While Shenmue is more of a detective time management game, Yakuza 0 is a more straightforward open-world crime JRPG. And yes, I'm calling it a JRPG. There's random encounters, you can earn a form of experience that you use to level up, there are mini-dungeons and boss fights, and the story structure has a lot in common with the JRPG genre, from its pacing, to its dramatic twists, to the story beats, to its rest periods. Like a Dragon just took things to more of an extreme and made it turn-based. Yakuza 0 is not a game where you have to memorize schedules or really keep track of clues. If you really wanted to follow the plot, you could just easily go from map marker to map marker and breeze through it. But I suspect that the reason that people compare Shenmue and Yakuza 0 to each other is that they both have relatively small open worlds that are bursting with content, seemingly at least. Both Dobuita and Kamurocho/Sotenbori are unique compared to games like GTA or recent Ubisoft fare. Most activities are within walking distance. And that's not to say that the games are bigger or smaller than their competition. As much as I dunked on Shenmue's combat earlier for not being used enough, it is something that you could spend hours perfecting. Yakuza 0 is easily as content dense as something like GTA, it's just that the content is closer together. However, while Shenmue is more dedicated to its themes in a gameplay sense because it forces the player to think like a methodical detective and solve a mystery in real time, I think that Yakuza 0 is still a stronger game. It's better able to manage its ambitions and keep them in check. While there is a lot to do in Yakuza 0, this isn't necessarily a game that is buckling under its own weight. Distractions happen more organically. In Shenmue, I found myself bumbling around town waiting for something to happen and looking for things to do. But in Yakuza 0, it happened in reverse. Things would, more often than not, happen to me. And it doesn't hurt that a lot of those things are funny as hell. Like, legitimately funny. Not so bad it's good funny. The side activities in Yakuza 0 are also engrossing in ways that Shenmue probably couldn't manage. Sure, Shenmue lets you play old Sega games, but Yakuza 0 lets you play old Sega games, which leads to a side quest with its own plotline, characters, and jokes, all revolving around improving at that old Sega game, and it unlocks a whole new Sega game once you complete that quest. Most side activities act like that. There's a pecking order at the disco hall that you have to climb up. There was a bit where a darts player swindled me out of a lot of my money. And of course, Real Estate and Cabaret Club are these giant, famous quest lines that help you supplement your income late in the game. Add on to that a gripping narrative that is just the right amount of soap operatic, and you've got yourself a modern classic. The wild tone of its side content combines with the deep character development and tragic storytelling to craft an experience that's unlike just about everything else. Except Shenmue. I think playing these two games one right after the other has kind of cursed me. I only see their similarities, how one game learned from another to great success and is now a multi-million selling franchise, complete with a Dragon Quest parodying spin-off. Or maybe a spin-off? Maybe a main game? I don't know, it's fuzzy. In all honesty, these games made me think of older RPGs like Deus Ex, or since I also played it recently, Bloodlines. Here are these dense RPG experiences that take place in relatively small city districts instead of giant world maps, where the massiveness of their systems was more important than the square acreage of their world maps. Warren Spector, lead designer on Deus Ex, once said that his dream game idea involved an RPG that revolved around just one city block. Such a small and intimate space could be more easily simulated in a deep, well-thought-out manner. Shenmue and Yakuza 0 made me think of that dream a lot. Dobuita, Kamurocho, and Sotenbori share a sense of closeness and familiarity, to the point that late in each game they started to feel like home. And Yakuza 0 in particular showed that such a small space need not be short on content or things to do. I feel bad for Shenmue, the developers who put their heart and ambition into what they thought would be the next big advancement in game design. You can tell that they put their all into the project and had a lot of faith in their vision. There's a template here for an absolutely breathtaking and absorbing detective game if a modern developer with modern technology, not you, was willing to learn Shenmue's best lessons. Because while Yakuza 0 is a fantastic and bonkers game, and while it makes me think of Shenmue's world design a lot, it's ultimately not a substitute for what Shenmue was trying to do. And that's okay. Yakuza didn't aim to emulate Shenmue, and I think it's a better series for it. Yakuza is Yakuza. But while a lot of this pseudo-series is about how far games have come since their spiritual predecessors, I still fantasize about what a game like Shenmue could be like in 2021. And I don't mean something like Shenmue 3, which I didn't play, but I heard enough about from YouTubers like Super Eyepatchwolf to know that it does not fulfill that vision of a fully realized Shenmue-like experience. You should check out Eyepatchwolf's Shenmue videos, by the way. They're excellent, and this video only scratches the surface on Shenmue's design compared to his. Link in the description. I imagine that someone could, or maybe already has, made a game like this. A game where the player travels through a small town that works on a clock, and they have to utilize their knowledge of this intimate space to solve a mystery or a puzzle. A game from the 2010s or 2020s could pull that off better than Shenmue, I'm certain. Oh, right.